Hey everybody, welcome to the Forge Narrative. My name is Paul Murphy, your host. This is episode 215, the Sabella Lost Souls podcast. We're going to be talking a little bit about playing Warhammer. Now, I will say that coming off the heels of Warzone Atlanta, that I got to watch a lot of games. I did not get to play a lot of games, so I've been immediately came home, and after my brain recovered just a little bit from judging and looking at all the amazing armies, started crafting some army list, started painting on some models. I even played a game. I want to talk about how terrible I did in the game that I played. It's going to be crazy. Or it is. Anyway, Knights aren't good. That's a spoiler. Just Knights. Knights aren't good.
You don't say.
But we are right off the back of our event, Warzone Atlanta, and I think we get to check off every milestone for a major event. Had good times, gave away lots of prizes, had some controversy. And I'm really thankful to say that we are high on the good times, high on the prizes, light on the controversy. And I want to talk about some of the really cool things, the new stuff we did over the weekend with our 3-man Friday night fracas. But joining me today is Andrew Whitaker.
What's up, homies?
And Ricky Addington.
I am still the Dark Angels on this podcast.
You actually played Dark Angels over the weekend.
You don't even know the struggle that happened. Like, as I stared down the barrel of how many guardsmen to paint, I have Manticores beside me. I had guardsmen. I had Lehman Russes lined up on the kitchen table. My wife was about to divorce me, and in the end, I was like, I'm just going to paint an entire Primaris army. So I painted that Primaris army in a week. And I took them, and I had the most fun I think I've ever had at Warzone, just putting Marines on the table.
Did you play them in the Friday night event?
I did, yeah. I ran 1250 of Primaris there, and at 1250 points, a 10-man Hellblaster squad is the truth. Just so you know.
Little did we know. Little did we realize that the old Hellblaster squads have been overlooked in the competitive circles.
Well, yeah. At 1250, it's a different game.
Yeah. Well, it felt like it was a different game until I ran up against the Magnus Mortarion combo, and then it felt like the same game that I've been playing.
Now, this was the test run for this 3-man format, and there's some things I'd probably do a little bit differently, but I don't know if I'd change the army requirements. And I think that the only thing that I would do would say that you cannot duplicate a unique character between the three forces, but other than that, take whatever you want. And people did. Like, there was the Super Chicken, Magnus.
At 1,250 points, I played against the Super Chicken, Magnus, and Mortarion. Or I'm sorry, he had Magnus and Mortarion in the same list.
Yeah, and like Fate Weaver or something, I think.
Yeah, and like 2 Demon Princes. I was like, I did not come prepared for this. I didn't come prepared for it at all, but that was certainly jarring.
Yeah, so thanks for jumping in there, Andrew, in the team event and the comments. But the way the way the tournament was set up is 3-man team, 3-person team, where one player is the defender and then the other two teammates are the striker. And the defender in each pairing, each round, would get to pick one of the strikers that he wanted to battle. And then the other 2 strikers would pair off against each other. So this is the first time we've done any kind of this kind of format. First time I think any kind of thing like this had gone on in a tournament setting. And, all reports is people had a blast. I mean, you guys are playing in it. What do you think?
I liked it a lot. I think it would have been a little better had we all actually printed our list. I think we played one team that actually had lists, and I was just as bad. Like,
this was
I walked
casual.
Up,
this was a casual event.
That would have made it a little smoother for us, but it was neat to have that kind of strategy in there about what list do you take so that you deny them a list or you force them into playing a list that they don't want to play and stuff. So it was like a slimmed down version of ATC, where you have all of that strategy going on. So it was one that I could do while drinking. So I liked it a lot better.
I loved it. It did have a lot of. I had no intention of playing going into the evening, right? And then Paul came to me and said, "Hey, we need a ringer team. We've got an odd number. We need to even it up. Will you play?" And I was like, you know what? Absolutely. But then Paul and I walked around the room and asked everyone we saw. We ended up getting John Keenan and, oh my goodness, we just had this ad hoc 3-guy team. We had AdMech, we had Space Wolves, we had like my guard list that was just pared down to 1250. And I actually was super duper glad that I played because in my first round, I played against a guy, Mark Perry, and he did something to me in that game. He basically, I didn't know what warp talons did. I had no appreciation for how powerful warp talons were.
You hear
Zero.
people talk about them on the internet, but you don't face many of them.
Exactly. And I was just like, he's like, I got some warp talons, I got Armon, I got some Rhino, and I was like, oh, well, I got 3 mana cores, so it's gonna be a real fun game. And then he just like drops down on turn 1 and just bundles like 40 guardsmen and like 10 mortar squads or whatever. And I was like, oh, that got my attention.
Because you can't fire Overwatch on them.
You can't fire Overwatch on them, and because he can burn that stratagem to activate them twice, because they have the fly special rule, they deep struck down, he trailed them back to Armon. Armon casts Warp Time, and then they jump within an inch of basically my entire army, and then he rolls his assault roll, and with the fly type, he can just move over, as any good Imperial Guard player will tell you, you layer your units staggered at 4 to 5 inches so that pylons and consolidates can't reach the next line of the screening units. But with fly, he doesn't care. He's just all up in your business, moving. He's on both sides of your screening line, piling into units behind him, et cetera, et cetera. And so that's exactly what he did. Turn 1, they landed. Armon warp timed him and just killed a ton of guardsmen. I ended up winning the game, but it was so irrelevant. That was not the point. It was very much like you taught me what these do, and going into a field of in the main event where there was 30 plus 40 plus chaos lists, I was like, I might face warp talons, and I am so glad I learned this the hard way on Friday night
in the casual event with the archdemons and Markson.
Yes.
It did not feel casual. It did,
but everyone was laughing and smiling. I mean,
oh no, yeah, no. Well, I had models to paint, so like my last game was that Mortarion Magnus thing. So turn 1, he was up in I was like, okay, we're good here. I shook his head. I said, thank you for the game. And I conceded right there after like he piled in. He wiped out 3 intercessor squads. I did not know a single model could roll that many dice on Mortarion. So my game ended very quickly, which gave me time to get back up to the room and do some painting. But it was a very fun event. And my nephew actually won his first tournament game in that event. So his first tournament game ever, he won. So
you get the taste for blood.
He got it, yeah. So he's in it to win it now. And then he went up. He discovered that Slanesh always swings first on his second game, and so that didn't go very well for him. But he won't forget, so that's good.
That's another thing. Holy smoke! In round 4 of the main event, I played a guy named David Fields, and he was playing like an off the wall counter meta Slanesh demon list. And I was like, and I seized on him. I was like, I'm going first. Like, this is not going to be
He wants you to go first. Yeah.
It was unbelievable. They were like, I was like, why are people not playing this? It was an eye-opening experience to play against Slanesh demons. And like, he's like, oh, I always swing first. Like, I charge him with Rough Riders. And he's like, yeah, my cultists are Slanesh or Emperor's Children or whatever. So they're going to swing before your Rough Riders. It's like, what the hell's going on right now? I had no idea. Yeah. It was pretty bonkers.
It all adds up. It
all adds up. Every little thing adds up.
So on Friday night, we probably had about 60 people participating in organized events, which is a big step up for us. It was like some other organizer buddies just didn't have any idea what was going on. They're like, what are all these people doing in the hall? I'm like, oh, we're playing in a tournament, dude.
Learn about it.
Yep.
I'm waiting on this thing to go to like a 3-day event or something, because I feel like we still need some like Shadespire events. We need some Sigmar events going on.
Well, I mean, that's it. Just more people doing the stuff, and I'm glad we were able to just sprinkle out some offerings. We had like an Apocalypse, I guess, venue, a vignette, encounter. I don't know what to call it, but we had an Apocalypse battle going on, and we had probably 15 people over there in that. We had the 3-man tournament with about 30 folks in that, and then we had an X-Wing tournament going on. And I mean, this is a big deal on Friday night.
It was a lot of fun, and I didn't feel in any way that it inhibited me from enjoying like the Friday night festivities generally of the event. Warzone, we market ourselves as the biggest party in 40k, and I at no point did I feel like I was trapped playing a game on Friday night. In the fracas or the team tournament or whatever. So it was just really part of an awesome weekend.
And we got to give away some great prizes. People were talking all about this because we had some art prints from Games Workshop that we were able to give away. and people were trading them to get the ones that that was more in line with their armies, and I think people really enjoyed them, and people kept talking about it.
I'm still mad about that, guys. Like, you cannot tell me, Andrew. Let me ask you a question. Let me ask you. I'm going to put this out here. You're a Dark Angels player, and you.
So I'm a Chaos player. Cool.
Oh my god. You know what? No, it's not even worth it.
No, I would like to take this chance.
I win my super low bracket, and they hand me something. They're like, "Hey, you won your bracket," and I was like, "Oh, that's exciting." So I open it up. The biggest Dark Angels fanboy in the world, and what is it? It's a print of Horus, and they hand me a box of demons, and I'm like, you guys suck. And I look over, and my buddy's got a Dark Angels print, and he's like waving it at me, laughing, and so I felt like maybe that was on purpose.
If you can't fight fate.
A couple of things to respond to here on this. Number one, Kelly's going to kill you. They're called groups, not brackets. Paul and I can't explain to you the difference or why it matters. But the nomenclature is important.
I created this whole system. They're brackets.
They're brackets. Number two is I'd like to take this chance. There's very few upsides to being a 40k podcast host / Z-list internet celebrity, but I'd like to take this chance to use the bully pulpit to say, if anyone is willing to trade an Imperial Guard and or Blood Angels print that they won at Warzone for my Betrayal at Calf print, hit me up on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter. I'm happy to do the trade.
Yeah, that's great. The reason that we call them groups, or that we functionally refer to them as groups, is because that in a bracket you play within your bracket, and with the groups that we have at Warzone, it doesn't change who you play. It's just a competition within the competition. After day one, you are broken out into groups based on your placing. It's just the top 8, top 9, or whatever are in one group, and then, out from there. And then you are competing against those players to win your group on day 2. But you're not playing other people within that group. You're still filtering through the tournament Swiss style like you should. But it's a competition within the competition.
Well, either way, I got a sweet print out of it, so I'm happy about it, and it doesn't bother me. I'm never going to be playing at table 1, so I'm happy to win anything. But I will say, Paul, I just went to Hobby Lobby tonight to get that thing framed, and turns out I don't know what kind of frames they sell in the UK, but
it's the metric system.
Yeah, those prints are not a normal size. It's like 16 inches by like 11 and a half inches. It was some weird shape that these are in. So
it's funny you say that, because it is an unusual American inch foot system as opposed to like centimeters, meters. It's so funny you say that, because it's the exact same dimensions as college degrees, because it's like, all those harken back from like the English days when everything was in Latin and blah 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 in the metric system. And so if you look at like the vast majority of college diplomas, especially from like old universities, they're that weird wonky 16 and a half times like 12 and a quarter, whatever size. And I went to get my law school diploma framed, and they were like, "Oh yeah, this is gonna be really expensive." And I was like, "Why? Why is it so expensive?"
Just go to Amazon. Just get them off of Amazon. You can get whatever size you want. I'm pretty sure that the algorithm, you just type in you want some kind of like weird dimension frame, and it just makes up a listing for you to click on.
It's even better. It's even better. My wife's degree is in geology. I'm just going to like pull that out of that frame and put that in there. It's totally good.
That's the man whose wife does not listen to this show. Right?
How long do you think? Seriously, like I could get away with it for 6 months before she notices.
I don't know, man. Well, good luck with that. If you're not on the show next week, we know what happened.
Ricky perished.
Well, anyway, I'm glad everyone is enjoying the prizes. That's one of the best things about doing these things. Is I love it. At the end, we just get to give away so much stuff, and our sponsors are responsible for that. We called them out, of course, at the event, but Gigabytes, Dicehead.com, Vendetta Games. I mean, and the list is going to go on, and we'll continue to mention them because we are so grateful for their support. And because of that, we're able to give out the 12 group prizes, all the side prizes, we even, this podcast, Forge Narrative, sponsored a special prize for headhunting. You had to keep your warlord alive and slay the enemy warlord, and so giving you a perfect score of 10 at the end of the tournament, and only one person got that score of 10. I was prepared for 2 people, and if 2 people got it, I was going to give, or if multiple people, there was a tie. No, I was going to give it to the highest battle points and the lowest battle points, but only one person had the perfect score of keeping his warlord alive and slaying the other guys in all 5 games. That was an interesting thing to watch and track along the way. But anyway, because of all the sponsors, we were able to give away tons of prizes, and I'll be talking about them on the show as we move forward, and then listing them in the show notes as well. And this is just something that you guys say as much as I do. Please support the folks that support what you like. So, they help make the tournament more enjoyable. They help make this podcast more enjoyable. And in my opinion, they're worth getting your business. So please check them out.
Yeah, love it.
Let me talk about my game here that I played. This was yesterday, and I played Knights. I've been going through like a clinic with someone who's getting back into the game, and I've been playing all these, like, every week I played something different against him. And I thought, you know what? I haven't played these Knights in a while. Let me roll out a Knight list. They're not good. They're just not. Well, because on paper, I think they look a lot better. You think, oh, toughness 8, got an invulnerable save, got 24 wounds.
It's such a bad invulnerable save, though. It
really
doesn't.
Is. I was burning that stratagem every turn just to try to make it a game. Now, he was playing Admech, and Admech have a lot of shooting and ways with the Wrath of Mars to be able to divvy out a bunch of mortal wounds, and that is not what you want to be playing with a Knight. Nope. Or playing against with a Knight. But, again, in the spirit of competition and new things and playing with the toys that I've got, I mean, for crying out loud, sometimes I think you just have to do that. You just got to play with the toys. Oh, I've confirmed the suspicion that Knights are not amazing.
That's why I got my brand new display case in my living room with all my Knights in it. They are beautiful. Guess what? They ain't coming out of that case.
They're impressive figures. So even, like the Acheron, the Lancer, and just the other Knight variants, they're still great looking figures. And because of that, like if you're playing the long game with Warhammer 40k, it's cyclical, right? Like things that are good now may not be good later, and then they might come back around to being good. I think that Knights are like high on that priority to make good because they just look so cool.
Well, they look so cool, and it's a great model, but it's a model that's going to make GW money. It's a model that makes me as a retailer money. So yeah, I definitely want them to be good again. But I played them heavily through 6th and 7th. I guess 6th and 7th, or was it just 7th? Either way, I played them a lot, and I loved that unique feel that they had. They don't really seem to have the same kind of feel of being like these big, powerful, nigh invulnerable, monsters like they used to be. Because a lot of the way 8th edition mechanics work, they don't really play the same. I was
anymore. Losing wounds to heavy bolters from servitors.
Exactly. Yeah, and remember. That just hurts your heart,
Now, I do love that, by the way. That is, I don't want to make it sound like I'm beating up the fact that can happen, because the fact that can happen is like one of the brilliant things about the edition is that things change. The game state changes, and you can make plays that were impossible in 7th, and you get to move models around, do things with models, and you're not stuck.
Yeah, but the thing is, the Knights just don't have the resilience to hold up to what's available these days. If you put 2,000 points of Knights on the table versus 2,000 points of guard shooting, the Knights, they will never be able to make their points back before guard shoots them off the table. Their invul save is just not strong enough right now, and they have no defense against mortal wounds and psychic powers.
I definitely agree with all of that, and no one got the harder end of the stick when 8th edition popped and the rules came out and they said anybody can hurt anything. Las guns are now capable of putting wounds on land raiders, right? Nobody got the raw end
even though
of that
the math
deal.
says it never happens, it always
happens. It always happens
all the time. It happens all the time.
All the time.
As a guard player, I'm like, yeah, go ahead and bring Magnus a little bit closer, because all it takes is maybe just get like a slightly above average to wound roll, And first rank fire, second rank fire with a full squad of infantry, I can do 2-3 wounds to Magnus. Like that's a thing that happens, and nobody got a raw into that
the
stick.
Scales. That really
It does.
tips the
It's a
scales.
huge deal. I mean, people are like, oh, I got to kill those las cannons. Well, if I roll a 3 on my to wound roll, it is exactly the same thing as a whole bunch of las guns rolling like slightly better than average to wound roll. And unfortunately for the Knights, that means the world to them. Taking wounds from heavy bolters on a 4-up invuln save because they wounded you on 5s.
It's a 5-up.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, 5-up. Yeah. Exactly.
Well, I mean, they do have an armor save, so
they have a 4-up armor save. Yeah,
it would be a 4-up armor save. Yeah,
but still,
that's the thing is like in 7th edition, Knights, you didn't see me on the top tables with Imperial Knights. Knights were a middle table, and heaven forbid something happened, they get stuck down on those
the
bottom
terror
tables
of the middle tables.
Exactly, and everybody's like, "Oh, I hate Knights. Knights are so bad." No, they're not. It's just they're not good enough to make it to the top tables. But even then, when they were invulnerable and to so much stuff, you would play somebody and maybe a third of their weapons could actually hurt the knight, and Knights would still go down. And now we're in an edition where Knights can be affected by anything. There's just no way they can compete without, some sort of improvement.
With all those smite and bolt pistols out there, they're basically the same thing to Knights.
It might as well. It's a wound's a wound, I mean, and then they don't even get their save in close combat. So it's like,
I do think Knights would be so much better if they just had a rule that says if your weapon is less than strength 6, you cannot cause wounds to a knight on less than strength 7 shooting or something like that.
Or maybe it has a 2-up save against less than strength 7 weapons or strength.
However you want to skin that cat.
We're completely wish listing and spitballing here. It's
anything. Just give us a codex and give us some stratagems or something that let us,
Well, I mean, with the narrow amount of rules in the Mechanicus book for households or whatever, the household is basically it's meaningless rules wise. It's only a limiter. That we're going to see something like for White Dwarf, and I mean, again, just assuming we'll see something like that.
Yeah, I mean, we could very well see a full-blown codex for them. I mean, we had them before. We've had 2 Imperial Knight codexes since the army has been out. So, I mean, there's no reason we don't get another one, and I will buy it.
What makes them better outside of maybe just what we said of giving them some type of something that makes them as tough as they look? What is there anything else that can make them better? I mean, stratagems, of course, and then legitimate warlord traits. I mean, I think that's probably what we'll see, or what we have seen is what changes the game for things.
Yeah. Well, the real question is, do we think they need to be changed as a unit, or do we need to see points dropped? Because they are prohibitively expensive, and in an index world, they did okay. I think our first tournament when 8th came out was won by a 4-knight list.
Oh yeah, when the indexes came out, the Knights were
strong.
They were very strong. They were really hot.
They've been sidelined though, and that comes from just other things are just more efficient. Other things are.
That's it. And when you're looking at a 500-point model, I mean, I know it's a little under 500 points. When you're looking at a 500-point model, that a stiff breeze can put a wound on it.
Yeah, it's a liability. Why am I going to take it when I can take a few Lehman Russes and put out 2-3 times the damage?
It's by comparison to like, all right, so I've got this bone stock chainsword double rapid fire battle cannon Imperial Knight, the old school paladin, right? And it is
$450, I think.
Considerably more expensive than the Demon Primarch Magnus, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
he's 25% more expensive or something, or
it's and you're like, okay, well, I guess this guy's probably not worth it. You're just like, this is terrible. So I do think there. Yeah. I genuinely do think it's not. I think there are definitely some tweaks to the way Imperial Knights should play unit wise. Stratagems, warlord traits, all those things, little things we're talking about. But the points reduction is a primary thing, and I think across the board we're seeing GW do that with the codexes, where you're seeing big steep drops, proper point corrections. With the lone exception to the points corrections so far is they left the Mana Core at 133 points, which is it's blasphemy.
Well, with I think the
hold
term that I was in that interview that we had with Robin Cruddas, it was when things are not punching at their weight, they now have a mechanic in which they can address it. That doesn't take years for a production cycle to roll back around again.
Right.
Okay, I just want to clarify though, Andrew. You feel that mana cores are too cheap, right?
Yes, they should.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah.
We're about to have a whole other conversation if
we need a 97-point mana core.
Yeah, exactly.
No peace until 97-point mana cores.
I forget who I had this conversation with this weekend. My Warzone list had 4 of them in it. If they were 180 points apiece, I'd still have 4 of them. And I was like, that should, if they were 47 points more expensive, I'd still take them.
Well, I don't want to make it sound like I don't want units to be good and I don't want them to be efficient. They should be, they will always be, and that's just the way it is. I just think that, and I'm not trying to disparage Knights, including one in a list, like when you have it as a third bully unit, or maybe it is your counter assault, if you kind of spec him out that way. Depending on what your army is, there may be better ways to do that, but I think that you can still make a case for a knight.
Yeah,
I just think that you can't expect to be super competitive with a whole table of knights.
Yeah, well,
and by 4 knights.
You never were. You never were super competitive with even with I used to run the 5-knight list, and it was never super competitive. It won enough games, and it was challenging, and it was fun, and it was such a neat army to put on the table.
But they're fun to paint. I'm talking. This all goes back to everything being. It's a very impressive model. I love the model.
Yes, hands down. If you never assembled and built a knight and painted a knight, do it. The Cerastus chassis knights, in my opinion, are one of the most fun models I've ever put together. I've got an Atropos Acheron. I've got
God, they magnetize so easy too. Like both my Cerastus style knights are they're magnetized to break down at the hip and the arms, and it is just they just mag so easy.
Yeah, they're fantastic models, and they're great. I just wish that they could compete at the level of Astra Militarum and Demons and stuff like that. I don't ever see it happen, especially with objective-based games. But right now, in the state they're in, I think, yes, one knight in an army can still be worth it. I still feel like there are other options that are probably more efficient to put in your army, but I feel like one knight in there you can get away with.
Let's take a break here in a second. I'm going to have some special spots that I'm going to insert in it. I don't know how many we're going to have, but I know I at least have Chandler and Evan from Facing the Gray Tide who did a spot with me over the weekend. I'm going to insert that here, and I may have a couple extra guests that I'll put in here. So this could be, if you see the show and it's like 3 hours long, just know that these guest spots are coming, and then we'll come back with Andrew and Ricky here after this break. Or I don't know how long that break's going to be before you hear us again.
Could be days.
It could be. Could get everybody on the show, and hopefully we do. But you guys hold tight. Again, thanks a lot for listening to us and following along with Warzone Atlanta coverage. You can find some of the live stream on the Forge the Narrative YouTube page, and you can find pictures up in the Warzone Atlanta Facebook page and players group. We have a players group up online. It's really nice seeing everybody chat and share their pictures and talk about their experiences, and everyone's also sharing other events that are around the area. All accounts, everyone had a great time. We delivered another successful year, and I'm very excited to start planning again for 2018. I know that our partner group, the general staff, is also anxious to get going again, because it takes a long time to plan. I'm going to be looking to expand the player base as well, but we'll see what we can put together. Again, just thanks everybody for coming and sharing the good times and following along with us. A sincere apology from us for anyone that may be impacted by anything that they've seen on the internet, but just know that we will be delivering 1,000 times the capacity we possibly can for fun and good times and excitement. Going to max it out for every year to come. Hold tight.
Frontline Gaming is excited to announce that tickets are now on sale for the LVO 2018. Taking place January 26th through the 28th at Bally's Casino in Las Vegas, the event will feature gaming, seminars, and social events. Don't wait, get your tickets at lasvegasopen.net today.
Hey everybody, welcome to a very special segment of Forge Narrative. My name is Paul Murphy, your host. We are sitting here in a hotel room at Warzone Atlanta. I'm joined by Chandler Douglas and Evan Slagle from Facing the Gray Tide.
Yo, what's up, guys?
Hey, how's it going?
And Miles Hamrick.
You know it, Wrong Way Kids.
This is not quite a Wrong Way Kids takeover. We might induct these two guys, while we're here.
We'll see. We'll see.
We'll see. I know I got y'all things going, but this is Saturday at Warzone Atlanta. You guys were players. What is your impression in the event?
I mean, it's the biggest party of 40k in the country. I think my biggest takeaway from day one was we were supposed to rank all 3 opponents in favored opponent order, and I, no joke,
it's the hardest decision.
I sat there and deliberated for about 10 minutes because I could not pick between the 3 people I played. All 3 were just awesome opponents. And I can't say with any certainty, even last year, that was the case. Like, I could at least pick one.
So we're better than we were last year this year is what you're saying?
Yes. And part of that might be 8th edition, just the game itself.
Faster, easier. Like, as a rules judge, as a judge, like the hardest question I got today on the edition was, how do I measure something? I was like, well,
is it within?
You pull the tape measure out, and you measure it. Like, oh, thanks, Paul. And we moved on. Chandler, what about you?
For me, it's one of those things that the terrain is awesome. It's not the exact same on every table. You are getting variation between the tables, which is a good thing because I don't want to play on the same thing from round 1 to round 5. And to go off that, the missions, the fact that, okay, you're all playing the same mission across every table, but then how deployment sets up and how
there's variance.
It's variance.
It's variance.
It's variance in a good way.
But terrain plays a big part in this edition. I mean, you need line of sight blocking and you need area terrain, and we have that represented on every table.
Yep.
Because we spent a lot of time ramping up this year to be a very much 8th edition, not a holdover in 7th edition. We're going to continue to try to innovate every single year.
And it's obvious. I mean, from looking at the missions, looking at its setup, looking at everything, it's obvious that the focus going forward is 8th edition and improving on that, which is huge. It's huge, especially with all the crap we were dealing with in 7th. And no, screw it.
It's not the same game anymore.
No, everything we were dealing with in 6th and 7th. Let's call it like it is.
Now, Miles, it's your first Warzone.
Yes.
What do you think?
So speaking on the atmosphere of it, the fact that we have gorgeous ladies coming up to the table, taking drink orders, and then delivering drinks to the gaming table has probably
See,
been...
I take that for granted at this point.
Yeah.
I'm saying no, for years.
But at a gaming event, man, that is amazing to me. Food being available for you with the ticket purchase, drink service being at the tables. They touched on terrain already for every table, which is amazing. The quality of people's hobby coming here is outstanding. And I've just had an outstanding time. Everybody's been super polite. It's been a very upscale atmosphere to standard tournaments.
Everybody's here to play, to have fun.
Absolutely,
and that's it. And we have that on every table. Like Miles, you actually been doing pretty well.
Yep.
You played John Keenan in the last round.
Yes, I did.
Of today, not in the third round.
Yeah, third round.
But you were winning. You played a top-notch person in the third round, who also winning out.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've stayed in the top 20 the whole time so far. I made it to table 1, first time ever. So I'm pretty happy about that. But as far as the competition-wise, everybody knows their army. Nobody's guessing about things. Nobody's really... I haven't come across anybody making some faulty stuff. So everybody's up front and it's upscale play.
It has for me. I mean, the fact that the very first game I scored was not paying attention, was just going through the motion of scoring, and when it came to the tertiary, made the mistake with my opponent of giving 1 point per tertiary, and I realized that game 2 I was like, hey, we gotta fix this. You need more points because let's face it, he did better than I did on playing the primary mission partially because of his list, and it showed. And I didn't want to screw him, so he was happy that I caught the mistake. And as soon as I said it, he was like, We got to fix this as soon as we can.
We have staff at the scoring booth that are accommodating to this, and it's like we have procedures to cover this kind of stuff. Now, what do you guys think about the quality of armies, like just paint jobs and stuff that you guys see?
It's fantastic, and it's what I've come to. I mean, it's all of year 2 for me at Warzone, but it's what I've come to expect from the event, and it's something that I have actually had conversations with some of my friends who go to tournament events who aren't in the southern region. When it came up about the ITC reporting that Warzone was reporting overall scores and not just raw battle scores, and the reaction was very much just kind of this, that's not what they're used to kind of thing, and kind of the conversation really revolved around, well, what Warzone is about the total hobby, about bringing a beautiful army on the table, doing justice to your opponent in that social contract of, creating this atmosphere on the tabletop.
That's big here. That's what we try to translate.
And to go off that, I mean, Paul, you were at ATC. I mean, how many different things did we see where people had put stuff together that you looked at and you said, okay, yes, you were trying to get stuff ready for, the change to 8th, the change to ATC, Shane going to 8th, which I was happy to do. But how many people did you see that just put together something and you're like, is that a Pelican or a school bus? Like, what is that supposed to be?
Well, it's a different type of event, and they have been, I want to say, almost cursed because they've had to bear the brunt of every single major change. And Shane and Chris, those guys are freaking amazing, and they have 400 people, 500 people there. It's a different amount. Like, look,
it is no criticism. That was
it was. And we needed to go to 8th on that. But here we do try to take in that whole picture of the hobby. And by the way, I love the ITC. It is a way for us, like when we're traveling around the world, when we're traveling around the country and playing 40k. There are things that we can communicate with each other, like the Rosetta Stone, the rule book, our ITC points. Those are 2 things that are on the top of the list. All right, so I mean, it's absolutely amazing that it drives a sense of even another aspect of the sense of community. So I'm really glad that we are a part of that, and people can come here to get their points. But at the same time, we're preserving the spirit of our event, and the ITC allows for that. I mean, that's like all that debate was about people who didn't quite understand, or I don't want to say didn't understand. They had a different, idea of what it was, and they can have that idea because that's what it is for them. It's different for us.
Well, you went over to England. What was it like over there? Because I know you got to see some games and you got to see some stuff. So what was that comparison?
That's funny because we think they're like the fluffier, like they pay attention to more the theme or whatever. Their list are as cutthroat as ours without any hesitation.
To jump on that real quick. So over in England, you don't play with gray models. Like, they take their hobby very seriously, and they come correct for pickup games, and that's something that we haven't really in the States gone to. I mean, you guys even do a playoff of it with your podcast, Facing the Gray Tide. So with that being said, coming here and everybody has an army painted. 3-color minimum is an unspoken rule of being like shamed down upon. You got 3-color minimum, you might as well be playing Gray Tide here at the event, and that's one thing that I picked up on right away. I was really happy to be a part of it, to be judged for my hobby, and that's what I came here to do is mainly focus on hobby. But winning games is helping.
It's the culture. Absolutely. I mean, in every event should foster their own culture, and it's like we try to do that where we party like we just left the lobby where we were, what they're calling the lobby. Our hotel is going under much construction.
It's a lobby.
The shanty town that they have set up to be our lobby. We were down there with 30 guys, 30 folks drinking and stuff, and we came up to let's just record a little bit of a show here. But that's the culture of the event. It's like it's all about bringing folks together, talking about, because we all do this. Like, this is what we do, and to be at the hyper competitive side without sacrificing what I consider any of these other aspects is what the event's about.
And the other thing too, going off that, you've got something at this tournament for everybody. You know, the fact that you can come here, you can get the hobbying, you can see awesome models, you can play great games. It's got everything you expect from the GT, from the social contract, from everything you want in your local group or playing. You know, Evan and I and Ron, we always do a guys weekend, generally at Evan's house because he's got more room than us. But we always when we get together, it's fun. You know it's going to be cutthroat. You know you're going to try to crush each other because that's what you want to do. But at the end, you're having a great time. And that's what it feels like on the grandest scale right now in the South.
Well, even in our award categories, like we prize as deep as we possibly can. There's going to be lots of stuff we give away tomorrow. And that's what makes me feel good. That's one of the I love giving away stuff. But we do have 4 champions of the event that are equal. If you ever ask me who won Warzone, it's going to be those 4 folks. And I think it's critical. Like other people, they pride themselves on being able to compete on one level or whatever, and that's good. They should. I mean, like, hey, I'm going to focus on just wreck and face. I'm going to focus on just the painting side. We award 4 grand champions in those, and that's because we prize every aspect of the hobby, and I think that's attractive to folks to become and win that. We are going to give away 4 top prizes tomorrow.
And speaking of the prizing and in incorporating as deep as you can, some of the folks who help run the event, and Mike Twitchell, I believe, is kind of sponsoring it, the Meta Warzone Experience Bounty, which is one of the coolest things I've ever seen.
That is
anywhere.
neat. It's a checklist of going through all the things that you can encounter over the course of a tournament, it's a checklist of meeting certain people, being a part of certain things, winning a game, losing a game, buying someone to drink.
And you cannot max this thing if you are better than 3 and 2. So I love that it encourages, people who have maybe been right on that cusp, and that disappointment of a second loss is, well, now I can max my score.
And the prize for that is a whole army.
Yeah. Hey, 2,500 point Space Wolf painted army.
Look, I mean, we're blessed with generosity of sponsors and encouraging a community of people that like to spread it around, and folks like Vendetta and Dicehead.com. I mean, it's like we have tons of sponsors that I'm thankful to talk about them because I mean without them we wouldn't be able to do this kind of stuff. But it's also the generosity of some of the players that just want to add to the community and the experience. Here.
And that's where the bounty board comes in. The fact that if you know that somebody is waffling on a list, you can put a bounty out saying, hey, guess what? You beat them, you're getting a waffle iron. Not saying anybody on our show. Ron Smiley. But yes, it's fun things like that, and that drives something, because then, like last year, I got 2 bounties in one game because I bought John Ross a beer, sun's out, and then I lost to him, guns out.
But this is part of the culture. Like most of those bounties that we offer are player-driven bounties. Yes. So it's like, and it's things that can happen in the game, things you can happen in the experience. It's all about interacting with folks. And we have 110 players here. So this is not this is not a 30-man or whatever. This is a lot of people interacting and all. Like I'm pretty sure that I know 80% of the names of folks down there, like just by sight interacting with them, and you don't get that everywhere.
You don't get the level of detail always. You don't get the level of competition always. And the biggest thing is you don't see it all come together in one place as often as you do here. And the fact that you can walk across the entire hall and just walk over to a game, take a look, and just talk to the players as they're playing. And for the most part, guys are going to talk with you unless they're in the middle of, counting out.
But we're respectful, of course, right?
Yeah, of course. Unless they're in the middle of counting out 108 dice from, whatever they just shot. But you can do that. And that interaction, I mean, how many people, Evan, have we met since coming to from the war zones? How many people have we met that are just constantly
We've been going back
us?
to the seasonal, the FTN seasonal.
Yeah, the seasonal.
People talk about like it was forever ago. That was 2015. That was the same year we ran I ran the one in February, and they're like, let's do another one.
That's right. Yeah,
like, the first was that same year. It's like you see the same. It's building this giant community down here in the South.
And the best part is that We have people coming from Canada. We have people coming from the West Coast. We have people
International.
You know, it is international. This is the International Southern Conference.
Yeah.
That's right. Wrong way, kid. International.
There you go. That's right. Yeah, that's right. Jeff, wrong way, kid.
Jeff from Canada. Wrong way, kid.
You're trying to poach him off our team?
Yeah, he's
already poached, Holmes.
He's been
I
there.
think he's been poached by about 4 teams.
Jeff's been there for a
Typical
month.
Canadian,
Yeah.
he can't say no.
You can't say no.
He'll be wearing the colors tomorrow.
So he's going to be playing 6 different games at HGC next year.
Well, the club, we'll loan him out.
All right, we'll let him
That's right, yeah.
All right, we'll split custody.
And stealing our Canadian ringer.
Somebody's got to make points.
Sure, something.
I'm just messing with you. But yeah, but we have that's the reach of the. But people are coming here because it's now a destination event, and that wouldn't be built up. It's like Forge Narrative, the general staff guys. It created this culture of just good times in 40k, and I think that's what. Like I said, I wasn't kidding about the hardest ruling that I've had to make as a judge today. The edition lends itself to really good playing. The culture lends itself to good sports, and the fact that we prize painting. Well, actually, our prize for painting is actually a little bit better than the prizes for everything else. Now equal weight, like clout wise or whatever, but that means we reward that little bit of extra effort. And that's like when I had to as a judge or as a TO, we vote for our favorite painted army. And this was really one of the first years where there were 5 armies, and I'm not even messing around. There's about 5 armies of all the ones that are on display that I thought could have easily got the vote at any other place.
So, for you guys from the player's side, how awesome is it when we get to a table and we know the guy across from us has put in, hopefully, the same minimal effort to make their army look good? How nice is that?
It's amazing. I thoroughly enjoy it. And the fact that I can go to a table and I could play a Horde army and every model on there you could easily count 4 or 5 different colors without picking it up off the table. It's outstanding. It shows that they care about their models. They care about giving you a positive experience while you play.
That's it.
And
that's it right there.
That speaks volumes for this event and for the players here.
Yeah, and I mean, it is the Warzone thing. I won't lie that there were choices made in my list strictly for these are the cooler models I can bring, so they're going to make the list even if they're not the most optimal choice. I am playing Index Nids on Codex release weekend, which is a little painful. But at the same time, I could look at potentially trying to hero out another army that I could get together, but it wouldn't be up to the standard that I felt I wanted to live up to bring to Warzone Atlanta. And it wouldn't be up to the competitive level, maybe on a paper level, but from my personal experience, I wouldn't have time to both bring it up hobby-wise and get the play and the
But there's 109 other people that are feeling the same way. I mean,
yeah, exactly.
And that's what translates on the army. Like, we see it. This is not hyperbole, but that's what we see down there. And I mean, am I wrong? Do y'all agree? I mean, I'm a little bit biased.
That's exactly it.
So, Paul, here we go. What is the one thing that we always talk about when it comes to Warzone? What's the one thing Warzone prides over? Touche.
The fact Paul's not allowed to play.
No, but what's the one thing we always talk about day 2? What's the one thing Warzone does that very few other tournaments see happen on day 2?
Oh, nobody drops. Everybody plays.
Everybody plays. In the times that we don't see people playing, it's generally because of what?
Well, the one time.
There we go.
It's the one singular time. It's got a little too party, a little too hard.
There might have been
Saturday
one or
night,
two
in the
people
morning.
down in the lobby that might not make
We
it
might
tomorrow.
have a couple of drops tomorrow just by what I've personally witnessed. But we will call them out by name. But yeah, and this is now the 3rd or 4th major event that I've had a part of, and zero appreciable drops. I mean, but it's the culture. It's possible. You can do that kind of thing.
And it goes to showing you that in your local meta, in your local store, wherever you're playing, whether it's a group of friends, traveling to hang out with people, when you've got the same commitment coming from everybody involved, it can only be for the best. It can only beat it.
Everyone has a vested interest in making it a little bit better, and it's like stuff with the bounties, the stuff you were just talking about with the checklist or whatever. This is all player driven stuff. We have player driven. Our media award is actually a player driven award. Like, we're going to give away $150, $160 worth of stuff that is driven by another player out there who's just trying to make the event better. But that's stuff that you can build. It's all about building the community. Granted, I want to say there's a little magic of Warzone or whatever, but it's all about creating that culture that goes out and kind of lives beyond you.
And how many feel bad experiences have you guys had in the first 3 games? Like, because I know
losing that Mortarion, I'm saying.
Oh, that's every game. You guys
I've never had him live past turn 2. I never.
No.
I can't figure out a way.
Mortarion's a big old scarecrow that everybody kills first turn, and then the rest of my army gets to play. So I always play like a 300 and something point difference against another army.
But the point is that you don't have people that are sitting there, for the most part, deliberately trying to one up you. They're trying to enjoy the game with you. They're trying to have that same experience and trying to.
They're into it. They're on the same page as you are. That's it.
Yeah, I mean, my round 2 is a great example of that, where his first couple turns, it wasn't going that great for me, and I was getting a little intense because I'm trying to figure out how to dig myself out of that hole. And then I proceed to do so, and then he's a little intense for 2 turns, trying to figure out what the heck he's going to do.
But that's the game of 40k.
And then after the game, we're laughing and talking about it and, like, absolutely having a great time. And it was, totally just this, hey, I wasn't mad. I'm just trying to figure out what I'm going to do.
Everyone knows what's up. It's very, we're talking about the good times, but it's very competitive out there.
And how many times have we had that happen in your garage playing on Guy?
Yep.
How many times have you had that happen
absolutely.
in your house in MurphCon back in the day? How many times did you have that happen?
Oh, it gets rich, as I say that.
I will say I'm less likely to throw dice across the room at Warzone than in my own house against the guys I've been friends with for 10 years.
Oh, man. Well, I'm glad you guys can come and talk about your experience here. We're going to wrap this part up. Maybe we'll have you guys on again. I'm sure you guys are going to do some recaps on your show. Maybe I come on. I'm not inviting myself, but hopefully I get to come on you guys' show.
Are you inviting yourself?
I'm not inviting myself.
I'm going to be on your show.
Okay, there we go. All right.
But you can find them on Facing the Gray Tide, Miles. Yeah.
Absolutely Wrong Way Kids, all day, every day. Check out a new partner I had here, Zach Cascoon Miniatures. Shout out to them. Check them out. Facebook, website,
We'll post links on this show. I mean, it's good stuff. People are going to want to see that stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, we'll talk soon, guys.
Awesome.
FTN is brought to you by Bell of Lost Souls. Check out www.bols.org for the best daily hobby articles on the web.
Hey everybody, we are back. I hope you enjoyed those interviews. I got some cool announcements to make. I'm going to the LVO.
That's a big deal.
Finally able to arrange it where I think I can finagle that time off work, and I just said, you know what? It looks like it's a good window. Season it. Got my tickets.
I've heard it's pretty good. I mean, that's one of those smaller local tournaments, though, right? Is that what that is?
Hopefully, it's going to be me and like 500 other gamers.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's a little. That's okay.
Playing in their 40k event. I don't know what I'm bringing yet. We got some cool things on the horizon, so I have not made up my mind about what I'm actually going to take. I'd like to take something that fits comfortably on the plane, and that it's not too hard to stumble around with if I get drunk at a poker table.
Those Eldar are quite spindly.
You think they're portable?
Well, I mean, they're portable, but they're little dainty arms. They're lean, so those are going to snap if you get too drunk and ham-fisted.
You got to have good foam. That's what I got to have. Good
there
foam
you go.
For my figures. I do also want to talk about something before that. The Golden Sprue Cup. Big supporters of our podcast and mention us, and I know the guys running that are us fans of Forge Narrative. And I want to mention their event coming up. This is January 13th and 14th. It's a couple of weeks, I think, before the LVO, and then it's a 2-day event. The first day is a competitive qualifier. The second day is finals and friendly events. They have a team event and Apocalypse. It's like a convention. You can find the tickets on Best Coast Pairings. And if you get them before December 1st, they're a little bit cheaper than they would be after. You can also go to goldenspruecupgt.com.
Good times. Where's that at? Where's that located?
It's in New York. You can find a bunch of info at the Golden Sprue Cup GT.com. They got all the info there you're going to need. I definitely suggest checking it out. We hear lots of good things from that. And I hear they also produce some really interesting trophies, which I understand are highly coveted. So if you are able to get out for a tournament on that weekend, they're worth checking out. And it sounds like they're going to be doing some run up to the LVO again, which I'll be doing my homework.
LVO is a win-loss format, isn't it? So if it's is it one of those situations where, you got a bad mission or bad dice or ran into a freight train like Paul Murphy in round 3, then you're kind of out of it. Is that I understand?
It is, but there are tons of other events to do while you're out there. I mean, this is one of those things where there's just hundreds of people that are playing some type of game or some game system. And so they also do like outside the 40K events, they organize things that people can do when they aren't playing. If they just don't want to play, I'm just going to go and try to win every game. We'll see how that works out.
That's just roll 6s and win, dude. That's the best I could probably say.
I'm going to practice rolling 6s from here until the start date. I'm just going to roll dice continuously. And a lot of modeling, a lot of hobby stuff. I assume I can see it now. Getting ready for a big tournament. I try to limit my list changes, but I'm still always looking at the data, seeing what's out there, seeing what people are posting in groups and on message forums and stuff. And it makes me think. Like you're talking about, like the Warp Talons. I know that people, one of my playtest buddies in the Wrong Way Kids is a big fan of Warp Talons. And that's one of those things, like you don't see them all the time, but if you get caught kind of with your pants down in a situation, that could end the game for you.
Oh, there's definitely no doubt about that. It is, you have to be aware of, I hate to use the term meta kind of without defining my terms, but
there's a lot of stuff out there. I mean, it's a
brave new world. Exactly. I played an opponent this weekend in round 2, I believe, was an Eldar player playing a Laytok, or however it's pronounced. I wish Morgan was here to make a pun. But and he had these things called Death Specters, and I think there were a Forge World
unit. The Shadow
unit.
Specters, yeah.
Shadow Spectre. I didn't know what a Shadow Spectre did. And I was totally unaware. And that's not on him. That's not on my opponent. That's on me. There's just a ton of units out there. We're in a brand new, evolving game. 8th edition is less than 6 months old, coming up on half a year. New units every week. I'm going to run into a buzzsaw the next time I play Tyranids because they're going to be like, yeah, I have all these new rules. And it's hard to keep track of all that. But it's definitely, if you want to play competitive 40K, you got to do your best.
You got to have your ear to the ground, right? You've got to be at least aware of what is things that are making it into lots of lists.
Right. Which, I guess, and that's why you probably listen to Forge Narrative, because we're going to be talking about that kind of stuff. That's a good way to keep your ear to the ground, is to listen to shows like ours, because I'm going to tell you about Shadow Spectres, and I'm going to be like, hey, these are some really fast-moving heavy flamers, and they're going to blow you up. With that quick redeploy stuff, move, jump, auto hitting, strength 5, -1 heavy flamers on D6 hits. That's a problem if you're playing Imperial Guard, orcs, or any other light infantry format.
Which are good at winning games because they hold lots of objectives. Like that kind of stuff, everything you just described, or how people that are taking those lists, that's one of the ways that they win the games, is just having lots of bodies sitting somewhere.
That's exactly right. And now I'm not going to say whether this is, I'm not saying that Shadow Spectre is the most optimized option, but they were certainly very good, and they clearly were a good choice for this guy's list design. And they were put into his list as a way to counteract that mass body objective holding type system. And I played him in that. I played him in the round. Warzone is famous for the Red Rover missions, where the relic has to be pushed into your opponent's side of the table. It forces a lot of interesting movement decisions, a lot of target priority problems. And I think it's a really, really rewarding mission. I played him in that one. And it just so happened that those Shadow Spectres are really good at killing light infantry carrying relics. So anyway, all that to say, there's a lot of units out there in the world, and you got to keep your ear to the ground if you want to play competitively.
So then, where on the other side of it is like when you're trying to put some of those units into your list, when do you finally stop tweaking? And that's one of the things. And I know that's going to be limited by lots of things. of stuff like just your hobby time. Like, how much time do you have to paint a new unit if one strikes is a flash in the pan or something fancier when you think is going to really make a difference? And when are you handicapping yourself by putting something in your list that you might not be 100% familiar with, like all of its ins and outs and how it plays, just because you're trying to capitalize on some trend at the moment?
I think there's something to be said there for the value of playtesting and the value of finding someone in the community, whether it's locally for you or even, I mean, the miracle of modern telecommunications and the internet means you can talk to people who you think are good at gaming and get their insight and get their advice. And it really serves to fill the gap that Paul just identified. He says, Paul, you just asked this kind of rhetorically to say, when is enough tweaking enough? When do you know
it's not
that you've got the right
rhetorical.
core?
I think it's a worthy discussion.
Certainly, but I guess it's probably rhetorical for you personally in the sense that as a veteran tournament player, you've got a good idea of when you've hit the right core, but that's caveated. And with my point saying play testing and running it by people who you respect as players is super important. I don't know who all's in the wrong way, kids, with that gaming club with you, but you got some really good players in there. Like Will Bundy, if he's coming over to your house to playtest with you, that's a good playtest game. You're going to get some good insights. You're going to get a good player telling you that this doesn't work, this does work. And if you play that guy 6 times before you're on your way to LVO, that will help you immensely in figuring out what the best options are going to be. And so kind of back to the original point of playtesting, and find someone who you can bounce off of ideas and whose opinion you respect. That's the best advice I can give to anyone who wants to gin out a really competitive list.
I usually just tweak my list until Paul stops laughing at it, and I usually go with that.
I give him a solid, that's all right.
Yes, that'll do. Yeah, I'm like, that's high praise. That's the best I've ever got.
When you're playing Dark Angels Primaris Marines, yeah, that sounds about right.
I know. What can you say? Like, what do you want to? I don't want him screenshotting and be like, "Yeah, man, you're going to do great." And then,
yeah,
Paul Murphy said, "This is going to kill it."
It's like, oh, you're playing Index Primaris Marines? Cool, good talk. Yeah, let's go to town, bro.
I had a blast playing those, by the
I
way.
hope you can trade up for a better print. Like,
I did, actually.
And you did.
I did all those things. Yeah, it worked out well.
hey,
You cannot knock Azrael's 4-up invul save on a group of Hellblasters.
No, that does sound pretty good.
Fantastic.
That does sound pretty good. But on topic though, I am talking about like list prep, like tournament prep. How do you go about the process of doing it? And I do think you have to play things that you like. And I think that where we see people making kind of modeling compromises are typically on the units that they crammed in there just for efficiency. You know what I mean? I think that's a good way. That's a politically correct way of saying.
Yeah, I think that's a fair statement. I mean, it's weird with the emphasis on WYSIWYG. You got to put that aside just for a second. But what we're talking about is kind of that purely tabletop competitiveness. And Paul, you're exactly right. The compromises to the WYSIWYG or the painting or the modeling is definitely done in the interest of machining quality beatstick lists.
Well, I think it's a personal choice, and that's where I'm going with it, is that if you have to decide what your enjoyment is, what are your enjoyment triggers, and if you really want to have everything triple edge highlighted, or you're not playing it in a tournament, then that is, of course, going to determine when you stop tweaking your list and just get to painting, in my opinion. If you don't mind just the 3-color minimum or whatever that minimum hobby investment that your tournament requires to being your standard, then that's fine too. Then you can do the night before or even the morning of and still get some models on the table. And that has a different, maybe that's a time management, a budget conversation more than a list tweaking conversation. But you get what I'm saying. You've got more time to mess around. But nothing is going to replace the playtesting.
Yeah,
you got to get miles in. You got to get games in.
I was playing a game against Luke Slothauer, who won Best Painted, and I was like, I just could not stop staring at his models. I was like, dude, how long did it take you to paint this army? And he tells me, it's like, oh, it was a little over a year. And I'm like, oh my gosh. Like at that point, you don't change. You don't just, the level that this guy paints
You have
at,
no more wolfing.
yeah, you ain't just squeezing a unit in there. His whole army was just insane. I could not stop staring at it the whole game.
Perfect. It was absolutely perfect.
Flawless army. It's beautiful.
It's actually pretty funny you mention him because such a prime example. He came over to my house and we're sitting in my dining room and we're playing models, and I'm playing like a Blood Angels list, I was like, hey, this is what you're going to be facing in the middle to bottom tables. And I'm not going to try and like break out the big mean guard list. So we're playing and we finish up and we played a good game. It was super fun and we're having a blast. Luke's such a great guy. And then he's like, well, and we're talking and he's talking about his list. And I said, there's a couple of small changes you could really easily make to make this a lot better. And I proposed basically like 2 or 3, like what I thought were small changes.
That's 6 weeks of work for him, though. So.
Exactly. He literally started laughing. He was like, "Dude, like I can't change these gray hunters or these sky claws can't become gray hunters because I don't have 4 more months to repaint everything or to build the models and repaint them." I was like, oh yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Like, this takes a long time.
So figure out where you are on the spectrum there. I mean, that's it. I mean, like,
it really is. You're 100% right. You need to know what you're comfortable with and what you want to do, because you can make changes. You can make changes all the way up to that list cutoff if you're okay with that, and you can accomplish it to what you're happy with. And if you're not, though, you need to lock it in well in advance. And then the upside to that is you lock your list in way out, you can start getting reps with that army. And even if the army is not the most optimized army, if you know what you're doing with it and you have experience with it and practice, that will help you overcome some of the deficiencies in the army. Not all of them, but some.
Well, you need to know when you're in trouble. You need to know when your game plan needs revision, and I think if you don't have the reps in with your army, that you don't know when it's time to change your plan. You'll either stay committed or change too early. You'll do something that is not the best choice, is not the best game move because you don't have all those reps in.
Yeah, I always know I'm in trouble when I submit my list, and at that point I'm like, all right, here we go. So hope for the best.
Well, even on a 3-rounder, maybe your smaller events do not insist on any type of list changes, but they typically all have at least some type of modeling standards you conform to. That's typical. Even if somebody does slip in without all their models painted, at least the policy is that all the models are needed or at a certain standard. But I think where I'm going to approach this with LVO is that I'm definitely going to acquaint myself with the missions. I'm going to be playing the mission format because it's different, and and familiarizing yourself with the rulings of either FAQs in place or local colloquialisms, that you have to that are different from every area, they're not wrong or good or better or whatever. They're just different,
I thought that our friends over at Facing the Great Tide, who, Paul interviewed and who are going to be on our show this week or next, they did 2 episodes leading into Warzone that I listened to. I listened to one of them twice. They broke down the mission, or the mission primer, right? Because the organizers at Warzone
we didn't publish them. We didn't even publish the order they were going to be in.
Correct. There was no. You guys didn't publish any of the missions. Well, you produced a package of 10, and you said, "Hey, 5 of these are going to get used." No one has any idea which 5, and the Facing the Great Tide podcast walked through all 10 of them, and they kind of highs and lows and talked about each mission. It was pretty insightful, and I think that was a really good way. It's the first time that I had really thought through the missions before going into a tournament, and it obviously paid off for me. It was big, and because I knew going in, I was like, all right, this mission, I need to do X, Y, and Z, because I had actually heard people talk about it and thought about the sequencing for each mission. So I don't know if LVO publishes their missions beforehand.
There is a mission pack, yeah. And all big tournaments, if you're going to be running a big tournament, you owe it to your players to put the missions out there, because that's that's where list design starts. I mean, outside of just thinking models are cool and knowing it has good stats on paper, when you look at you have to focus on winning the missions themselves. And if that means you need extra, what are they called? Inceptor squads, intercessors. What are the jump pack Primaris Marines?
Those are the Inceptors, right?
Yeah. Maybe
intercessors are our tacticals.
Got it. All right. Well, maybe you need those jump pack dudes in your list if you're going to compete in the missions. And I don't know that that's the answer. I'm saying that is a list choice I would not normally make if it did not put me in a better position to win missions. And I think that's where I'm going to start, is I'm going to be looking at those missions and really deciding what units I think from all codexes, from the armies that I have available to choose from. I'm going to try to in my mind start thinking about which units better position me to get more game wins.
I love that we talk about this like you're not taking Blood Angels as soon as that codex comes out.
I reserve the right to throw this all out the window and take nothing but Sanguinary Guard.
It's going to look like Stormcast Eternals. There's going to be so much gold on the table.
I am not a machine, Ricky. I make emotional decisions about my army just like everyone else.
And you'll be drunk at a poker table just like everyone else.
Losing at the blackjack tables.
Exactly.
Talking about Dante.
He's going to try to put his models as chips. He's going to see how many did this get me after he loses the game.
This gold guy, this black guy, and this red guy. That's like
gold. It's real gold, I swear.
$250. Hit me. I joke, but I mean, I'm going to be going there to try to compete. I mean, but I go to every tournament that I compete in with the idea that we're going to try to do their best. Like even the Adepticon team tournament, which a lot of people approach casually. In my opinion, it is one of the most competitive events in the country, if not the most competitive, because there's so many factors, so many variables, and you play over 5 games, and you have the team dynamic, with a partner. You're not playing a solo game. You're with a partner having to make, group decisions and whatever, even, I've seen teams that have they just have one guy's a die roller or whatever. Inevitably, he will decide to want to make a decision right at the wrong time. And that's a team dynamic you have to overcome. And so that leads into it being, in my opinion, again, one of the most competitive events. But you got to plan. You got to do all this planning and stuff because you're going to a tournament. It's an investment in time, money, hours, whatever. You're giving up something in the other parts of your life. You owe it to yourself to try to plan for it. And I'm going to be trying to go along this journey leading up to LVO and Adepticon in 2018.
Okay, and I know it's wrong to say, but I'm going to say it anyway. Like when you're at Adepticon in the team tournament, and I always get some sort of weird enjoyment out of catching that moment when a friendship dies. You know what I'm saying? Like the game's just not going their way, and one of them says, "Let's do this," and the other one's like, "No, we're doing this," and then you can just see it in each other's eyes, and you're like, "These two aren't going to dinner tonight." And I just always giggle at that.
Oh, this happened last year where we're playing against some Eldar players. We both have good records. We're going into day 2. We play against some Eldar players. This is like 9 o'clock in the morning, and they have that friendship implosion moment. And then the guy on the other team is like, you know what? We should just drink.
Yeah, that fixes most of it.
And he breaks out this bottle of bourbon, and this is at 9 o'clock in the morning. and he pours us glasses, and my teammate looks at me, he's like, you better not drink that. I was like,
stay focused.
I'm like, I'm an adult. We can do this. So we almost had one of our implosion moments. I didn't, but I'm carrying it around, and I had to go talk to a judge about something completely unrelated to the game that I was in. Our game was already over, and I realized I'm having this discussion with this judge with a glass of bourbon in my hand at 9:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
Listen. If you take nothing away from Forge the Narrative, or from me and my participation in it, you just remember this fact. You cannot drink all day unless you start in the morning. That is a true statement. So I support you.
That's going to be on the next Forge the Narrative T-shirt.
That it should be. That's exactly what it should be. Anyway.
But preparedness. All right. So that's that's where we're going to stay focused. And actually, I want to have the hobby segment that's related to this preparedness side. And this one's going to be a little bit different, but this finish move segment, if you can, actually, I think I'm going to get the sponsor notification in one of the other segments. So if not, know that Frontline Gaming does sponsor the hobby segment, and please check them out. They're also the people that put on the LVO, which again we're going to be talking about, and I'm going to. But I find that since I started tweeting and in Facebook groups and whatever, I find that I now enjoy the interaction with people. I share my photos of my hobby progress, and people sharing with me, theirs with me, and it helps keep me motivated along the way. And you get this kind of transfer of ideas that help me stay motivated to paint more models. So right now I'm working on another mana core. I started making my mana cores back before they had models, and so now my mana core is a combination of a whirlwind and a chimera. In my opinion, it looks good, and it's the same dimensions and everything. But again, when there was no model for the mana core, you had to make do with what you had. But I'm making another one to go in my guard list, and that's what I'm posting up on Twitter right now. But then, next week I'll be painting something different because I'll see somebody else's photo. I'm like, man, you know what? I haven't painted a Blood Angel in a while. Let me get on that. Heck, I just hit Ricky up for some of his Reaver heads because I think those Scully faces are going to look really good on some Blood Angel models.
They do look good, but I need you to say it. Say it. Primaris are cool.
The Primaris bits are cool.
Close enough. All right, they're in the mail tomorrow.
You can make a case for the Hellblasters, and you can make a case for. I think one of the topics of one of our other shows is like, do the fact that scouts exist make some of these other Marine choices less attractive?
It does, but I will also say that 30-inch bolt guns with AP -1 is pretty attractive as well. So.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you on that. I mean, maybe we'll put them in the consideration for tournament list. I don't want to have a preconceived notion. I'm going to go into this next phase with an open mind.
Yeah. Well, I did. And I'll say it. I completely expected to go to Warzone Atlanta this year and lose all 5 games playing pure Primaris. And I was very pleasantly surprised with them and the way they worked. Granted, they were always within 6 inches of Azrael, so the 4-up invul made them a lot tougher. But don't discount Primaris. I know there's some other stuff that's efficient out there.
Units buff other units. I mean, that's just what you have to do now. But in the spirit of the hobby segment and getting ready for events, I think sharing your progress. I mean, unless you're working on some like super secret brew that you don't want anyone, biting your style to win best painted. That's not what I'm going for. I use this stuff to motivate me. Helps me get better. And then, of course, when you're going to be sharing it, you do try to spend that extra 5 or 10 minutes on a model to make it look a little bit nicer. And you cut fewer corners, I think, which is also important as you're getting your army better and better, as you're getting better at painting.
Yeah. I can almost tell you when I paint a model by looking at it. If I'm painting a model for like Adepticon or Nova, it's going to look this good. And if I'm painting a model for Warzone, it's going to look this good because I always feel like when I paint a model for Warzone, I need to step my game up a little. I always feel like I have to give it that little extra for Warzone.
That's the culture of the event, though.
Yeah,
and if that's the culture of your local area, you're going to appreciate spending those extra few moments, like the stuff that we talk about. And I think that it's important to socialize that also because you just see things when you're posting your own stuff. You start looking at other people's stuff. You see things that give you ideas. Like, you know what? I never thought about using that decal that in the way that they did it. Let me do something like that. Or I never thought about highlighting this color with that color.
Yeah, I think anytime I start a new painting project or something I've not painted before, I almost always go on Google Images and just start looking at other people's work, examples, like getting ideas that help me or see things that don't look right to me so that I catch it before I do it to myself. So it definitely helps you. Weird color
choices or whatever.
Yeah, just like something that you think, oh, this will look good. And then when you see it on like it may even look good on a single model, but like on the squad or something, it just doesn't work or something. Yeah, there's tons of things out there. So I always love going on there and seeing what other people people do, and a lot of times you're always going to see those like just professional those guys that blow you away. You know that you always see that. And that always kind of inspires you a little to do just a little bit better job. You know?
When I was working on those Sylvaneth, I ended up getting an accountability partner. I was like, have you got those painted here? I've got this. I've got these guys painted. Have you got your squad painted? You know, you develop those kind of friendships and networks. And you're just able, because we all have the same amount of hours in a day, right? It's what we do with it. And lining up reasons. If you've already got the motivational structure, this is not for you. If you feel like if you just pushed yourself and found a reason to push yourself a little bit more, then you'd get better results. This is a technique. Sharing your stuff, finding accountability partners out there, commenting on other people's stuff so they comment on yours is really going to help you get more out of your hobby time.
Yeah, and I think it's one of those things. Like I'm pretty blessed, really, with our local group and our club, because we're honest with each other. We'll tell someone, dude, that looks like crap. Go back and do this, or fix this, or maybe try this. But yeah, y'all, that positive reinforcement, those little cookies that you get when you complete something are always going to help motivate you to do things. But I think it's also good to have those people who are honest with you that say, hey, I know you could do this better, or, you know, did you miss this, or did you notice this? So I've got multiple friends who I get my criticism from, and then I've got others that I just, you know, kind of, you know, put my stuff out there and see what people think. And you're absolutely right. It makes sure you tell other people, you know, that they're doing a good job, or you know, it's simple as just giving somebody a like when they post something on Facebook.
Absolutely.
Those little things help motivate people.
That's the next encouragement
to push through,
to make them paint those headlights or whatever.
Yeah. They might go back and paint their eyes.
They weren't going to paint the rivets on that tank until you gave them that like.
I'm not giving that like. Don't paint the rivets. Come on. That's too much work.
Paint the rivets.
I have never seen a rivet that, like, I don't know, like.
It depends on the tank, you know.
Yeah,
whatever.
It's
on rhinos, so paint the rivets.
Yeah. It's so funny that
on Chimeras, there's a lot of rivets.
There's a lot. Yeah, maybe just leave that on. But when I think of Astra Militarum, I think of like modern day military stuff, and it's kind of funny how boring like an actual army tank is. If you look at an Abrams, the way they're painted up, it's literally just all like, you know, sand color. So you can't
paint
do
it
that.
all with a roller. The rivets aren't shaded. It has all been painted.
That's the thing. You if you get close to a piece of army equipment, it's just caked up on there. Like there's just paint caked all over every bit of it. You know, there's no detail work in that, and it's so funny how somebody paints a little model tank more meticulously and precisely than the government paints an actual tank. So it's kind of funny. We'll put way more detail into a little model than you'll ever get out of a real one. So that always makes me laugh.
Share those pics. Well, guys, we're going to wrap up. That's our show.
Thanks for listening, homies.
Yeah, next week we'll cover a little bit of Necromunda. I'm going to do some side content like on the YouTube channel about the Necromunda stuff. Just a quick blurb. It plays very much the same, but it's been modernized with the same kind of weapon skill, ballistic skill mechanics from the 8th edition.
I've got a question, Paul.
Yep.
Now, are Andrew and I old enough to be able to participate in this conversation, or is it basically just going to be you talking about how it was before?
How in the old days of Necromunda?
Yeah, like us kids aren't going to understand. Is that how it's going to?
Yeah, I guess I think that's a good perspective for me to phrase how the topics go.
I'm going to be honest. I'm excited about Necromunda because the first time I walked into the comic store where I discovered Warhammer and GW was they had, remember that old plastic and cardstock terrain?
Oh yeah.
That was on the table, and I was like, that whatever that is awesome.
It is time to retire that at your store.
No, it is great. We still have it. We still have it. Like one of our a great friend of mine, Charles, he brought that over and donated it, and he's like, maybe you can use this here. I was like, there is no way we're not using this here. So we have a whole table full of Necromunda terrain, and we make people play 40k on it at tournaments.
Guys, thanks for joining me tonight. Talk to y'all soon.
Good night.
Good night, guys.
am your father.